Howdy! Here comes a simpler build than my last one, and this one is mostly done on the CNC. My two kids wanted a custom sign to hang in their college apartment and came up with the name The Lion's Den. I had an old leftover 16 by 16 inch round table blank, which I thought would work great. After using AI to assist with the design, thanks ChatGPT, and making some edits, I uploaded the final design into Easel, my CAD software, and started the CNC working on routing out the design I created. Overall, things were going well, but then I switched over from the rough cut bit to the finish cut bit. The design shifted and caused a major failure. Oh well, at least it wasn't expensive wood. Reload, as some Aggies would say. After finding another table blank around the garage, because it's generally good to buy things in twos when you are a learning woodworker, I again ratted out the design, and luckily it finished without an issue the second time. The next step was to coat the entire top and sides of the sign in black. It was important to make sure that I covered not only the top of the sign, but all of the sides and all of the letters and the sides of the letters and the numbers as they were cut out. I used multiple coats and lots of different angles to assure that there were no leftover unpainted wood. After the paint dried, I mixed up some clear epoxy and added a small amount of white colored pigment called Soma to color it. The idea was to keep it as see-through as possible, but create a type of frosted glass look. I carefully poured the epoxy into the cutout portions of the design, trying to avoid spilling on the top. Note that I did not need to fill each cutout portion all the way to the top, as any gaps would be covered with the final epoxy top coat. After the inserted epoxy dried, I used my CNC to rat out the wood from the back of the sign until it reached a depth where you could see the inserted epoxy from the top. This left about a 1/4 inch of wood remaining. I added a coat of shellac on the back just to make sure that the wood was somewhat finished and protected, and let that dry. Once it was dry, I tested whether the light would shine through the design. I think it looks just about right. I put tape around the edges and mixed a batch of clear epoxy for the top coat and poured it onto the top of the sign until it was a flat surface. Then, assuring the epoxy was not leaking, I left it for 24 hours to cure and solidify. The next step was to create a cover for the back. I traced the sign onto a piece of eraser board so that the black part would be on the outside. Then I cut that shape out using my bandsaw. I then traced with some construction paper around the whole of the back side of the sign and added the lights to the back cover to allow for the best coverage without going outside that cutout portion. Note that I purchased these lights off of Amazon for around $8. And remember, you generally get what you pay for. I attached the backing to the sign with some small screws and used a black paint to touch up the edges of the backing so there was no white or other color showing through. I also added some hanger wire to the back so it could more easily hang on the wall. Time to test it out. I think it'll work great. Note that I left the battery box outside of the sign so that the batteries can be changed more easily. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the build, and see you soon. Howdies away.